So good evening. I'm just so excited that you're here. You have an idea and then you start planning and it doesn't even seem like it's possible, and now we're all sitting in this room and I just couldn't be more excited to have you here for this hopefully scintillating a series of workshops about how your town government works. We are filming. Thank you to NCTV for being here. We are filming for the idea of sharing this with the community for people who cannot be here. So just so everybody's aware that they're being filmed. And I want to thank you for your time. It's no small thing to commit to 10 Thursday nights. That's no small thing, and time is a valuable resource for all of us. So we couldn't be more pleased. And also thank you to our department heads and our interim administrator, who I'll introduce in a minute, for their time as well. They have been preparing their presentations for the different departments. They're excited to show off what they do for you as citizens of Norfolk. The purpose of the Academy started with difficult conversations that we've been having about trying to balance our budget, and difficult conversations with our advisory board and how are we going to do this work. And so I did a lot of reading over the summer about ways to involve the community in the process, because I didn't feel like 3 select board members should be representing the whole town. And I read about this and I read about that and participatory budgeting, but none of them really fit us. And then there was the idea of this academy where you teach the town about your, I think I'm going to learn alongside you about your departments and what do your taxes pay for in this town. And so when we begin in January and we have the governor's budget and we begin to have those conversations, we'll have a shared understanding of what our taxes do for us in Norfolk and begin to have that understanding. I'm also hoping we have a portal on the website, and I'm hoping to be learning alongside you too. There's a place to put in your questions. There's a place to put in ideas, so that if you have things you want us to be sure to be covering in next week's, and I'll talk about that at the end, but in next week's presentation, which is Is fire next week? The fire department is next week. So if you have questions, you want to be sure that the fire department, please ask us, because we are desperate to answer the questions or be aware of the questions that we didn't know that you were having. So, so we want to inform, we want to connect with you, and we want to learn from each other. Just some housekeeping things. Right out the door here, across the way, there's bathrooms. Yes? Yes. Right out the door here, there's bathrooms. I'm going to ask everybody to silence your cell phones. It's rare in life that you have that opportunity to be fully present about something, and I'd like us to be present together for this time. If the babysitter's there or whatever, you need to be available. I understand that, but to the best of our ability. If you're going to miss class next week or a different week, would you just call and let Amanda know? Call town hall and say, I'm going to miss class, and let Amanda know.
What's the phone number, please?
Amanda, what's our phone number?
508-440-2855.
Would you say it again?
I'm like questioning myself now.
That's all right. We can all find the phone
I'll
number.
find it.
We can find the phone number.
I can't believe I can't.
It's one of those things, sometimes your fingers know it, but you're
Well, you don't call yourself.
No, right.
don't call yourself, that's true.
It is 50, I was right. 508-440-2855.
Excellent. And then just sort of generally the structure of the meeting, we'll always have some kind of snacks. I have gotten grants from, this one's from Roach Brothers, so thank you Roach Brothers for providing our food for tonight. There will be some slides. Every department, we've asked every department to have the same set of slides, like what do you do for the town? How much does it cost the town? Who are the staff? And those kinds of questions. So every department's going to answer the slides in their own way. There might be some kind of activity, or there's likely to be some kind of activity. We'll have breaks, we'll have snacks. If you have some kind of food allergies or aversions, like tonight, I put out, there's summer sausage, but there's no pork on there. I didn't know if that was, but let me know if there's food things that you want me to be aware of. And then at the end, there'll be a wrap up. We are going to collect an evaluation form. It's not to be shared with the universe. It's just in-house. And it just says, like, what did stuck with you today? What is something, next week is fire. Do you have any questions you want us to be sure to answer? It's a very simple form. And so we want to know what's valuable to you, and We want to know if you, are there things next week you want to be sure that we answer? If you go home and you think, oh my God, I should have put this down, there's a link on our website. Like if you go on and it says your town at work, and you go in there, there's a link where you could submit a question in there as well. So at any time, you can submit questions so that we make sure that we're answering the questions. In terms of this group, in any time of my work, I would hope that this group, we are a team now. We are the first ever Norfolk Citizens Academy. And so, Jeff, can I pick on you for a second? Sure. So I'm not gonna go out and say, I can't believe Jeff said this. Like, this is us right now. And so Jeff has my respect, and we may agree or disagree, but out in the universe, I'm not talking about Jeff. I'm hoping Jeff isn't talking about me either, because we're just gonna be citizens here together. So we're going to have norms of taking care of each other, and this is a safe place. We'll be civil with each other. It's okay to disagree. When I was an elementary school principal, I used to tell my teachers, like, smart teachers disagree. If we're all just doing the same thing, we're never gonna be excellent, right? If we're challenging and thinking and wondering, but it needs to be safe. So it's okay to be disagreeing with each other in here. And again, we value your questions. Tonight is gonna be a little bit more interactive because of our lovely interim town administrator, but in general, it'll be more like a course, like where people are presenting materials. If you have questions about the materials, you should ask, but it's not like an open-ended Q&A, but tonight it will be, but mostly it won't be. But we want your questions, so don't forget to tell us the questions. And then the last thing I wanted to do, which I probably should have done first, was introductions. So I'm Anita Mecklenburg. I'm on the Norfolk Select Board, and I'm going to ask us to go around the room, tell our name out, and tell why. What do you hope to get from these classes? Why did you sign up, or what do you hope to get from that? And then hopefully we can begin the process of starting to learn each other's names, and because we are the first ever cohort of the Norfolk Citizens Academy. Mike, I'll let you start.
Sure. Hi everyone, my name is Mike, and I'm here because I think it's easy to get a feel for how state and federal government works, but municipal government's a little bit harder, so programs like these are great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My name's Marion Mitchell. I've been in town for 37 years. I just don't like what's going on in town because I just want to see where the money goes in town. That's why I'm here.
Excellent.
Hi, I'm Ben. I'm going to kind of agree with Mike there. I think state and federal, as much as it's highlighted in our daily lives, I actually don't think it's that important. I think everything that happens in our town is the most important thing that affects us on a daily basis. So just to get a better understanding on it and, get a better understanding on it and join with all you fine people to make the town a better place.
I'm Francine McCarthy. My husband and I have lived in Norfolk for 40 years. He could tell you any and everything about this town, and I need a GPS to get here. So that's basically why I'm here. I know very little about the town and how it's run. I never had children in the school system. A lot of the ways that you'd normally learn about a town, we were just never part of, and that's why I'm here.
Hi, I'm Rob Garrity. I'm not a member of you guys, so I'm on the advisory board, and we're going to be rotating in because each of us focus on different areas on the board. So you'll see, I think Ken will probably come to the public safety one because that's been Ken's area on the advisory board, and it's great for us to learn. We keep learning no matter how long we've been on the board, so that's why we're here.
Jake, just wanted to get more informed about how local government works and just the town in general, so just, yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
My name is Jill. I've been here for 11 months. All excited, yay. I think I'm probably the newbie here, right? But yeah, I'm trying to get interested in how Norfolk operates. I live right across the street from the fire department, so I've got to see it built this last year and wanted to know how we were making that work with our taxes. So just getting a feel for the town.
Thank you.
Hey everybody, I'm Joanna. I moved to town 3 years ago. I actually grew up in Worcester, so a bigger city. My 2 girls are at HOD, so yeah, I wanted to learn more about how the town was functioning, where tax dollars are going, and just to get more involved.
My name is Chris. My family built a house here in the 50s. I've been here more or less ever since. And I worked for NCTV for a while, but I've lost sort of touch, and I wanted to update what's happening in town.
Thank you.
My name is Pamela Russell, and I've been in Norfolk for now 20 years, and came from Jamaica Plain. I was president of NCTV's board for a number of years, proudly and happily. And, thank you. And I guess my husband and I don't have children. So we haven't been involved with the soccer, we haven't been involved with the school committee, we haven't been involved with the churches, we haven't been involved. And we felt, in a way, a little bit like an outsider. Because it felt like in Norfolk, if you're not in those experiences, you don't really have a place. I felt that way, and I felt that by coming here and learning more about how the town government operates and works, and doesn't work or works, I'd be slightly more empowered, but I would also feel more of a part of this lovely town, which I call home. Thank you.
Go ahead, Amanda.
Hi, I'm Amanda Johans. You may have gotten an email from me, and it is JOH, so that's weird, but it's Johans. I'm an executive assistant in the Select Board and Town Administrator's Office, and I also did not start out I started in the private sector, so I was learning a lot too about how municipal government works. I didn't know what the town clerk did or what, it's interesting. So it does affect your daily life. So, and again, any questions, or if you have anything, you can always call our office and I'll help.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Me to go?
I'll put you at the end, Mike. Is that okay? Jeff?
All right, I'm Jeff, 41 years a resident here, moved here to work the 128 belt, as it was known at the time, a STEM guy, multiple patents. I'm here because I know I can lend some hand and some help to the work that the town does, and perhaps to settle some of these issues with respect to finance and debt and the debt ratio.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Nick. I go to KP, and I just want to meet new Norfolk residents, and I just wanted to learn about how the town budget goes and stuff. So yeah.
Good one.
Perfect.
I'm Kathy Fox. Moved to town when I got married over 60 years ago, and I guess, I have the time now, and when this was first presented, I thought it was an opportunity to learn and ask questions and find out about some of the things I hear going on in town, actually, that do not seem quite right. But anyway, I have lots of family and friends in town, and the family's busy, but I can keep them informed.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Carla. I grew up in Easton. Moving to Norfolk a couple of years ago was like coming back to Easton, how it was many years ago. Very rural town, and we used to ride our horses on the street and had a 2-room schoolhouse. Not like that anymore. My family lives here now. I have a grandson at the H. Olive School, and I live in the senior complex up on 115, and wanted to get more involved. I've been a federal employee for 47 years. I'm retired from that. So, like Mike had said, it's very different in local government versus federal. So, looking forward to this.
Thank you.
I'm Susan Astencio and moved from Connecticut 6 years ago. Our kids are here, our grandkids are here. So my husband and I moved here, and I'd like to learn more about the town at the local level.
Thank you.
I'm Erica. I've been here about 4 years. I know nothing about town government. I love to learn. Would love to be more involved in the community. And also figure out where all the restaurants are at and when they're going to get
Nix.
Hi, I'm Donna Jones. Been here over 60 years. Several decades I've volunteered for Norfolk Community Television, so I am assisting Andrew in the control room by making sure audio was around, so that's why I may jump up and move a microphone. I wonder where all the money goes, who decides where it goes, And I want to share the truth in conversations that I have. And I've been involved with the senior center. So that's where some of the conversations are. We don't do Facebook. We may or may not do email. How do we get the information? How do we get the truth? Please reach out to us. So I'm definitely sharing this information I learned with them.
Excellent. And then I'll transition to Mike Gallagher. Go ahead, Mike.
I'm going to stroll over here so that I'm not standing behind some folks. So my name is Mike Gallagher. I've been here for 3 months as your interim town administrator. Just to give you some background, I did 40 years in the private sector, doing IT for various companies, Fidelity Investments, the New York Times, worked at a whole bunch of different places across the country. But during all of that time, I was involved in my town, which is Weymouth. It's now a city form of government, but I was involved when we had representative town meetings. So I go back to the day I moved into my house. I had one of my neighbors knocking on the door, taking me into a group. We were creating a citizens group, if you will, South Weymouth Neighborhood Association. And we were fighting a project that was being built, and that's how I got involved in town government way back when. Eventually ran for school committee. I did 13 years on the school committee in Weymouth. I have every lash on my back to prove it. It was a very interesting time in my life, but I loved every minute of getting involved in all of that. Got involved, left the private sector, came into public work when a friend of mine was elected mayor of Weymouth and actually reached out to me and asked me if I would join her administration. So I became her chief of staff. And I got involved in municipal government up to here and went, oh my God, how do towns and cities actually survive the way they operate? Coming from the private sector, looking at the public sector was, you talk about federal government, local government, state government, private sector to municipal government is a whole nother world. It's a whole different set of language. It's very interesting. But I loved the work that I did. So I spent 8 years in Weymouth, and then I left there and became the town administrator in North Attleboro. And I worked there for 5 years as the town administrator. We changed forms of government. So I became the first town manager of North Attleboro just because I was there. So it was kind of by virtue of office and the fact that I was sitting in the seat. Decided I had had enough after we went through that whole process because we had already done an override. We did a whole bunch of things in North Attleboro that just, in the 5 years that I was there, I can't believe we accomplished as much as we did. But it was great, and I really enjoyed that. Retired in 2021, and I'm awful at it. I keep coming back and doing these things. I keep doing these interim. I did an interim in Somerset, did an interim in Northborough, and then I came here to do an interim here. But it's because I love what I do, and I love the work, and hopefully that will come through as we kind of do tonight's presentation, which, as Anita said, I'm sorry. By the way, I apologize for last week. I'm the reason why we had to cancel last week. I had something hit me, and I still can't get rid of it. It's still, you can hear it, it's still in my head. One of these days, I'll actually be back to normal. Well, almost. I'm not going to push the point, but it's normal for me anyway. So I want to keep tonight kind of interactive. I did a slide presentation, and I'm going to go through that, but please, tonight's going to be a little different. Stop me, ask questions. I'm going to kind of do a high-level overview of the town for those of you who don't understand maybe how town government works. This will be a good opportunity to do that. For others that know a lot more, it may be a little boring. I'm going to try to keep it, again, moving at a pace where everybody's comfortable and everybody's happy with what we're doing here. But if there's something you don't understand, something you want me to go back and talk about, please stop me, ask the questions. Let's keep this interactive because, it's funny, I had a conversation with, one of the people in my office today, and I said, I love imparting this because someday I'm not going to be able to. And it's a sad commentary, but it's part of life, and I'm not going to be around to do that. So while I'm here, I'd love to be able to mentor people, explain stuff to people. It took me a while to get to where I am and the knowledge level that I have. I still don't know all of everything. And every town operates differently, but they all operate the same, if that makes sense. Sometimes I'll say all I changed was geography. that the names are different, but the issues are the same, the problems are the same, the concerns are the same. I've seen a lot, dealt with a lot, so I'm hoping to be able to impart that here in Norfolk and actually help you folks out and get you to a point where you're comfortable with some of the things that are going on. And I understand there's always the concerns about, well, where's this going? Where's that going? And I'm hoping that at the end of this, you'll all be comfortable with what you hear. Anita and I talked this morning a little bit, and if you're all comfortable with it, when we finish with all of this, and you've gone to all of these sessions, we want to hear whether or not you'd like to have another session like this with us to kind of wrap it up and go, okay, what did you learn? What didn't you learn? What kind of things did we answer? Are there still questions that you have? Because if there are, we want to make sure that when you walk out of here, you're a cohort that knows more than other people that you might bump into, and you can impart that information and knowledge to the folks that you know. So that's kind of the idea of having this ambassadorship, if you will, out of what we do here. So if you're interested, think about it. If you're interested, let us know, and we'd love to do another one of these at the end. What I'm not going to do tonight is do here's the town administrator office, there's 4 people in the town administrator office, and this is what they do. I can do that as part of this whole thing, but I think it's more important that we get into the whole, how does this place work? And who's who and what's what? And what kind of form of government do we have? How does it really operate? You have one of the oldest forms of town government ever, which is open town meeting. There aren't many communities that are still that way. Most of them are smaller communities. A lot of the larger communities have either gone to representative town meeting, they've gone to a town manager council form of government. They've done those kinds of things. They've made those changes. They've done a charter. You don't have a charter, you have bylaws. So there's things that you can and can't do as a community for yourselves without having to go to Mother State to get approval. And we'll talk about some of that as we go through the slides. But it's an interesting form of government. It's sometimes not as efficient as it needs to be, but we can talk through all of that as we go. But it's a pure form of government where everyone gets a say in that open town meeting, because as you'll see, that's your legislative branch. So could you flip the slide? Are we starting? Do you want me to go right into this thing? Or how do you want to do?
Do people want to break and get some food, or do you want to have
Can
them
I
go?
have a question?
Yes, of course.
Good question. So how many days a week are you here at the town hall? How many hours a day are you here?
Yep.
Are you hourly? Are you salary?
So I'm hourly.
Okay.
I'm only here 20 hours a week. So because
20
I
hours
took
a week.
Yeah, because I took my pension, I can only earn so much money in the calendar year. So I have to be very cautious of that. So I'm trying to keep my hours down for 2 reasons. One, I don't want to bankrupt the town. That's not my intent. What I want to be able to do is add value. But I am on call all the time. I get phone calls often. And I'm not charging the town for every minute of every day of every hour that I work. Because I think you all deserve better than that. But at the moment, I'm trying to keep it at 20 so I can get through the end of the year in case we don't have a full-time town administrator. That process is ongoing. We've actually, I can tell you, we've got, I think it was 30 resumes that have been submitted. There is a screening committee that's been impaneled by the select board. They'll be going through all of those, and we're hoping to get somebody in here full-time fairly quickly. I will tell you I'm wearing multiple hats because the week after I started here, the assistant town administrator / HR director went back to the town that she came from to come here. So not only am I your town administrator, I'm your assistant town administrator, I'm your HR director, I'm also your chief procurement officer. I have certifications from the state to be a chief procurement officer for the community, so I'm wearing a whole bunch of hats. And I will tell you, 20 hours a week doesn't even touch it. It just doesn't. There's so much that goes on. It's amazing. I walk into my office and it was just part of what I love about the job. When I walk in the morning, I have no idea what my day is going to look like. I know what I want to do, but what I wind up doing is completely different. You wind up fielding concerns from residents, you wind up dealing with issues with that different departments are dealing with, because the buck stops in that office. At the end of the day, everybody's coming to the town administrator's office for whatever. I mean, today I signed 4 contracts and put my slides together and did a whole bunch of other stuff, but it's an interesting job, and I love every minute. I'm sorry.
What does chief procurement?
That's a great question. So the town has to operate under certain Mass General laws for buying things. So for instance, we can't just go out and buy a pallet full of paper from wherever. We have to put together a procurement process. So there has to be a contract, it has to be bid, or it has to be, if it's under a certain dollar amount, you have to get quotes. But it's all governed by Mass General Law, Chapter 30B. Or in the case of something larger, like a construction project, is 149, Chapter 149, Chapter 3039M. So there's a whole bunch of, and all of that came about because, interesting question, because I'm going to now go down a whole different road that I hadn't even thought about today. It all came about with the building of UMass on the Harbor campus. There was a lot of graft and corruption that went on in the building of that particular building. Some people went to jail because of the way they operated and the way they didn't do the right things. So the state said, look, we can't have this. We have to be able to, people have to trust where their money's being spent. And if you're just going to do this and wind up pocketing half of what you should have been spending to do this, there's a problem. So they put all this procurement stuff in place. So there is a program within the state, and what it does is you have to go to training. I've done like 6 years of training, and you get this Massachusetts Chief Procurement, MCP, Chief Procurement, something off, whatever. Anyway, so I'm certified MCPPO, so I can do different things. I'm allowed to. I know enough to do the way the contracts have to be structured. You have to make sure that you've done your due diligence, that the person signing the contract on the other end is allowed by the corporation that you're doing business with to actually sign the document on their side. You have to make sure that they have disclosed that there's non-collusion involved, that they've paid all of their taxes. You've got to get a W-9 so you can actually pay them. There's a whole bunch of things you have to, certificate of corporate authority that says, hey, this guy's okay to, or this person is okay, guy, sorry, didn't mean that, that was sexist, but this person is okay to actually sign this contract on behalf of the town. So as that chief procurement officer, that's my responsibility, is to make sure that the town is operating properly within the confines of 30B, 3039M, 149, that we're actually purchasing all of those correctly. The other thing you can't do is a project like the fire station without someone as the certified chief procurement officer for your town. There has to be somebody that's responsible to make sure that all of that happens. So that's what a chief procurement officer is all about. You're very welcome. Very welcome. It's a great question.
Question.
Certainly.
Will we be able to have the slides digitally later?
Yes.
Absolutely.
We
Yes.
have print copies for you to take home today, and we'll put it on the website so everybody will have access to them, yes.
Yeah, and we'll do that for every session that we do. We'll make sure that everybody gets the slides. I didn't hand them out at the beginning of this because I wanted to keep this kind of an interactive discussion, and then you'll all get copies at the end. Any other questions before I kind of move into the next phase here? Okay, yes.
Yeah, a quick sort of synopsis. How would you compare the efficiency and, ability to accomplish goals in Norfolk compared to other towns that you, I mean, I know that's a loaded question, but I am curious.
It's fine. Norfolk is operating as efficiently as it can with the staffing levels that it has. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but there are always ways to make things a little bit better, and I'll give you an example. One of the things that I've discovered is we really didn't have a procurement process. So I'm trying to build that procurement process so that everybody knows this is the path you take. You do this, then you do this, then you do this, then you do this. There's a folder at the end of the day that has all of the paperwork in it, electronically and in hard copy, and that goes to the finance office, because the town accountant, who is our finance director, cannot pay a bill over $10,000 without a contract in place. That's state law. Yes.
So does a procurement officer, does he hold a nay or a yay of a decision if
Yes,
something
yeah,
is?
I've sent contracts back to department heads here and said, no, I'm not signing that. I need this, 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 and this. Without that, I'm not doing it. I can tell you in another community I was in, I had a contract with an organization that was outside of the state. The problem you run into with that is you can't service, you can't, legal, I'm gonna put my legal hat on now. You can't present service to a company across state lines. That's a problem. So you need to make sure that whoever you're doing business with is registered to do business in the Commonwealth, first of all, and secondly, has presence within the Commonwealth. So if you do have an issue, you can deliver service to them. If you don't, you run the risk of not being able to deliver that service over state lines. And that's, again, that's law, that's state law. Yeah, see, I'm sorry, I'm all over the place, and it is, again, there's so much that I've dealt with, and I just wanted to.
It's just a license that you need. So does somebody at the DPW have?
Yep,
so it's not just you?
No, it's not.
Right, okay. It makes it sound like it's just you.
No, it's not a license, it's training, but someone has to be designated the chief procurement officer for the town.
Right.
So that's,
okay.
But there are other people who have gone through the training.
Right.
And we were kind of put in a position where we had to do that because some things happened that shouldn't have happened, but there are other people who are trained and who have that certification as well, which is great because when I go, somebody else can put that hat on.
Thank you.
No, I was saying I do.
Yeah. I mean,
I thought he was the only one. I'm like, he's only getting 20 hours.
No. We have a bunch of people that go, and the training is really important because if you do it wrong, you can get in trouble. Like if you put out a bid, for instance, you can't do no bid contracts. That's illegal. But if you put out a bid and there's a problem with it, somebody challenges the bid, if you haven't done it right, you're in trouble. Anyway. Okay, so move on. Okay, so your town structure, and you'll see I did the word because this is your town. So your town structure. Your legislative branch is town meeting. So you have an executive branch and you have a legislative branch. But your legislative branch is town meeting. Town meeting is an open town meeting. Anybody in the town can go and attend and vote if they're, if they want to vote on what happens there. Town meeting controls everything. At the end of the day, town meeting approves the budget. It approves any changes to bylaws. It takes other actions like street, if we want to, absorb a street or whatever. It has to go to town meeting. Your legislative branch has to vote on that. The executive branch doesn't have that authority. You have an elected town moderator who actually runs town meetings. So the moderator, any of you have been there, the moderator runs town meeting. That's that person's job. I run town, they run the town meeting, and they also appoint the advisory board. The advisory board is the equivalent of a finance committee, if you will. They review, but they do more than that, because they review every article before it goes to town meeting, and they actually provide an opinion as part of the process. So when you get the warrant at town meeting, and all those pieces are in there, the advisory board will have in there their recommendation on how the people should vote. And they've done, and they've actually had meetings with, in fact, I have a meeting with them next Wednesday about a bunch of the articles are on there, but they will have met with the department heads or anybody who has petitioned through the town warrant process. It's not just articles that come from town hall. citizens can also put articles on the warrant. And there's a process to follow to do that, where you can actually, we have one coming up in November. So there's a November town meeting coming up. Everybody should be there. It's November 12th. Yeah. So November 12th is going to be the next town meeting. It's like a semi-annual town meeting, but it's a special town, we call it a special town meeting. And there is going to be 15 articles, I think, on that warrant. There's a couple that are finance articles, a couple that are just placeholders just in case. And then there's 4 articles for the use of Community Preservation Act monies, and then there's other articles for, from the planning office to change some bylaws. So there's a whole bunch of things that are going to go on in November. I highly recommend people to be there because it's kind of an interesting process to watch.
And pre-town.
And pre-town meeting. There's also a pre-town meeting on November 5th. Good. November 5th is going to be a pre-town meeting where we actually kind of walk through what you're going to hear on the 12th. And that's going to be at one of the schools.
Freeman Kennedy.
Freeman Kennedy.
We started doing that because people said sometimes at town meeting, issues are complex and issues come up, and then people can ask questions at town meeting, but it's some people said it's kind of fast. And so they said, could we have a pre-town meeting just so we can ask questions and understand the articles on the warrant fully before the meeting starts? So that was based on feedback that we heard from the community, and so that's why we started having the pre-town meeting.
So I alluded to this back earlier when I first started. You don't have home rule as a community. And what that means is that some of the articles that are voted at town meeting can't go into effect until they've been approved at the state legislature. So that's because of the way the laws are written in the Commonwealth. So unless you've done a charter and done home rule, you have to go to Mother State and ask permission to do certain things. So if you decide, there was, trying to think of one. Trying to use example. Do you have an example?
Well, yeah, setting up the town administrator position, for instance.
There you go.
In '94, we
Yep.
went for a special act.
Yeah, there had to be a special act of the legislature after town meeting approved it. So once that's approved, then the clerk would then send all of that to the legislature. The legislature would do a whole, the whole process, and they would approve that. And what they usually do is they gang it up with a whole bunch of other communities that have done similar things, and then they just vote it at the legislative level. It's pretty straightforward unless you've done something wrong, and then it has to, because they always put it through their legal counsel to make sure that the language is appropriate and the pieces that are in there are meet the rules of the land. Mass general law, the Constitution of the Commonwealth, all of those pieces. So they have their own attorney that reviews all of that and then would determine that. That's why I say a lot of communities have gone forward and they've done a charter. That's a whole nother process, and that requires a ballot vote to create a charter commission. And then that charter commission would then review the form of government that you have that you're using, and then determine from there what they would put on the ballot for the residents to vote. Ultimately, everyone who lives in the town gets to vote on that, because it goes on the ballot as to whether or not you want to accept that charter. And a charter doesn't necessarily mean a complete change in the form of government. A charter could be just, hey, we want home rules so that we can do stuff here, as opposed to having to go to the state all the time, and here's what we want to do. Sometimes it can be, we want to rearrange the chairs here and make sure that things are a little more efficient, effective, whatever. But that's that whole process. So your legislative branch is pretty straightforward. It's pretty simple. The executive branch, on the other hand, is kind of convoluted. So your executive branch actually consists of a whole bunch of boards, committees, and individuals. So your select board does not control the entire town. Contrary to popular opinion, the select board is not the be-all and end-all. The select board has control of a chunk of what happens within the town, But there are other pieces that report to the electorate. So you have 2 school committees, one for the Norfolk Public, and then the other one for KP. So there's 2 different school committees, and they handle their funds and whatever. KP is, as you know, is a regional school district, so there's a bunch of communities that are in there. That school committee sets its own budget and then sends the town a bill. It says, here's what we're going to charge you now per pupil going forward. But we have representation there. You have representation from this town on that committee. School committee for Norfolk is a little bit different. They have to take all of that to town meeting, and it's part of the whole budget process for town meeting. So the school budget for for your community is part of that budget. The funding for KP is also in there, but it's just a line item with a single dollar amount that says this is how much we're sending to King Philip for the students that we have in there. And that's the same for all of anybody involved in a regional school district. I've been involved in a couple, and they're kind of interesting, and that's how that whole process works. But in addition to all of those folks being as part of your executive branch, you have an elected town clerk that does not report to the select board, does not report to the town administrator. The town clerk is an entity in and of itself, that particular office. You have a board of assessors that's elected. So that board of assessors is the group that sets your tax rate. So at the end of the year, they also assess, there's an assessing department and whatever, but the board of assessors, the big thing the board of assessors does is it sets the tax rate. So they look at what your revenues are for the town, the total value of the town based on a total value, not just the value of your home. And we'll get into that a little bit too, because I want to talk about Proposition 2.5 while I'm talking about the assessors. You also have elected constables, which is kind of interesting. I've never seen that before, elected constables. Usually the constables are appointed by the select board, but in this particular case, in your town, they're elected. The planning board is also elected. It's another elected body that operates independently from everybody else in the town. The planning director, while kind of reports in 2 different directions, to the planning board and also to the town administrator. You have a board of library trustees that runs your library and appoints the library director. So that library director is appointed by that board of trustees and reports to that board of trustees, not to the town administrator, not to the select board, but to the board of trustees. Recreation commission, same thing. You have a recreation commission that's elected that hires and appoints the recreation director, who reports to that board, not to the town administrator, not to the select board. And then you have a board of health that is also elected, that manages your health issues, if you will, within the town. So that's your executive branch. It's not like, you have, here's a entity or a person that is your executive branch. It's broken up and kind of, it's more in silos than you would think. Next slide. So that's your org chart, and that's going to be, this is your eye test for the day, but it'll be in your packets, but that's the org chart for the entire town. So you have your electorate up above, and then the next layer is all of the boards, committees, people that are elected that go on the ballot, and then below that you can follow the pieces. You have your select board, and then the pieces that they're involved in, and then what all of the other boards and committees and whatever do. The select board does appoint a number of other boards and committees, which are all listed there as well. But in general, that's what your town looks like. That's your org chart. Did you have a question?
Where does the town administrator come in?
Town administrator works for the select board. We'll get into that. I'm actually going to drive through this a little bit. So if we go to the next slide.
Can I have one question on this real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
So with the moderator appoints the advisory committee.
Correct.
What are the checks and balances for the advisory committee, for the town moderator to not select? I mean, for him to select whoever he wants, what's the vetting process? He can select whoever he wants?
He can select whoever he wants.
Okay.
That's in his purview.
Okay. There's no checks and balances, or somebody, you have to have certain qualifications, or know what you're
Well,
doing?
I mean, I'm sure that the town moderator has requirements, I would think.
Well, you're speculating.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
speculating,
Yeah, okay.
but my guess is, for the let me tell you, the people I've met on your advisory board
Yeah.
does a good job.
Sure. Yeah. No.
No, it's okay. So, I haven't met.
I wasn't going like that. It's just more like what checks and balances.
Yeah,
are, you know?
there are none.
Okay.
Well,
There are none.
the advisory board is a check and balance because the select board brings the warrant forward, right?
But I think the question was,
What makes
where's
it
the check
qualified?
and, where's the check and balance with the moderator selecting people to sit on that board?
Right.
And there isn't any. The town moderator has.
That's exclusively his
has-
responsibility.
Has free reign to do that.
And not only that, there's no check on the advisory board either.
Town moderator is the check on the advisory board, and the
He
advisory
doesn't
board is the check
attend the
themselves.
meetings. He doesn't attend the meetings.
No, I understand that.
What good is that, though? How does,
I'm sorry?
I was gonna say, what good is that if he doesn't attend the meetings?
I went to I've been going to the advisory board meetings, just to let you know.
Yes, ma'am.
Anybody on the legislative section, are all of them paid?
No, everybody in your, so the legislative piece is just town meeting and the moderator. And if I'm, please, correct me if I'm wrong,
Just so we can leave the legislative, cool.
I don't think anyone in town receives any kind of a stipend in a board or committee. Is that a true statement? Except, the only person that gets a stipend is it gets a salary as a town clerk.
Used to get $1 for some reason, but I don't think that happens anymore.
I don't think so
That's
either.
Yeah, I don't think anybody gets anything.
Yeah.
I will tell you, when I was in Weymouth, I got compensated as a member of the school committee. It was a whole $3,600 a year. It helped me out, though.
Is that why they need
Gas
so
money.
very little? I mean, 2 biannual town meetings?
Well,
Well, that's.
Well, that's statute, actually. So
Yeah.
statute is, there's only one town meeting a
Right.
year.
right.
That's the state law. So that's why we have to call the one in the fall a special.
Special.
Because you have one annual town meeting. Now, that town meeting can go, and it used to go, 4 or 5 nights. It used to stretch on. The moderator has driven a more efficient town meeting where it's, we're done in a night. But when I started in town in '94, there were 4 or 5 town meeting nights. It all depends on how much people wanted to talk, and, yeah. And the legislature doesn't need to meet constantly. They need to meet once or twice a year, say, okay, executive branch, this is how you do the stuff. That's kind of the role, right? Legislature says, okay, this is how we want the town to run. Here you go. You run your town.
And the legislature is you, like, you are the legislature, like, that's
You're
the
town meeting
unique thing
members.
about the town
Because you live
government.
here. Yeah. Because it's an open town meeting, so anyone can go and vote. Any other questions on any of that? Keep going to the next. So, anyway, that's in the packet that you'll get, all of that information, and you'll at least be able to kind of follow the yellow brick road on this thing. Next slide. So, I took the executive branch, and I'm going to focus now on just the select board and the town administrator. So the select board appoints the town administrator, along with a couple of other appointments that they do. And the town administrator is responsible for all of those departments, all those department heads. So police, fire, public works, emergency management, the finance director, and then the finance director is responsible for their organization, inspectional services, which is your building commissioner. I put it as inspectional services because it actually encompasses more than that, than just building. Facilities, so we have an interesting, and I really like this about this town. We have a centralized facilities management team for the town that takes care of all of the facilities in the town, regardless of whether or not they're schools, school buildings, or general government buildings. So they take care of all of that, which is good. I've been in communities where there's 2 different groups, they're fractured, they're paying people differently. It just becomes a nightmare when you're trying to deal with all of that. And then when you try to bring it together, it's like, well, we're not going to take a pay cut. We want a big pay raise. And then when you get into that whole thing, and the cost can get a little bit much. But I really like the fact that you've got that centralized facilities. Human resources, falls under the town administrator, as does land use. Land use would be planning, zoning, the planning director, conservation, all those folks in that particular office. Senior center, the person that runs the senior center reports to the town administrator. And then technology. We have a technology person that's doing everything for the general government. Schools have their own technology team, and it's kind of a good thing because schools are very different and their needs are very different than general government. And you never want the two networks to come together. I've seen really bad things happen in communities where those two networks are bridged together. The kids today, you guys are unbelievable with this stuff, and it's scary. Actually, I had a situation in Weymouth. I'll throw Weymouth under the bus. Someone actually took apart a computer. One of the kids took apart a computer, changed the BIOS at the core level of the computer, so they could hack into the network. I'm like, wow, I want this kid on my team. Find out who that is. I want to hire him for my IT group because he was really good. And we caught him, but it was interesting. We had an interesting discussion because, as I mentioned, I did 40 years in the private sector doing IT, so I'm always fascinated by that kind of stuff. Anyway, next slide, please. So that's another org chart, and that's just the select board. So if you look from the select board appoints the town administrator, the town council, and who's over there?
Boards, committees, and positions.
Oh, yeah, and that's all other boards, committees, and whatever. So
Fire chief, police.
yeah, and the town administrator is the agent. The way the town administrator we alluded to in 1994, the Town Administrator Act. Town administrator acts as the agent for the select board. So what the town administrator says is really what the select board is saying. Town administrator reports directly to the select board and is responsible for all of those other pieces that are up there. So police, fire, public works, emergency management, and then the general administration side of government, which is all of the offices in this building.
And these are all paid positions?
Those are all paid positions, yes. Select board is not, but everybody else below that, yeah, is. Town council is outside. It's an outside council. We don't have inside council. We couldn't really afford it. Inside council would be very expensive. We try to keep our expenses down there, but we live in a very litigious society, and I can tell you, just watching things unfold in my career, it's becoming more and more expensive to operate that piece of it because there's so many complexities. General,
Now, are all these required by state?
No.
Okay, so some of this is fat, obviously.
Not really.
So an animal
Because you
inspector?
Well, an animal control, so, yeah, an animal control.
No, animal control,
inspector.
I got that.
Yeah, animal inspector,
Of animals.
because you have farms,
Yeah.
you need an animal inspector.
Okay, fair enough.
If you don't have, if you didn't have farms,
Yeah.
we don't have one in Weymouth, we have an animal control officer.
You don't have an animal
We
inspector.
don't have
Sure,
farms.
makes sense. I get it.
I mean, we've had a couple of people that have tried, but on 5,000 square feet, it's a little difficult.
Right.
to do.
But that's
I gotta
not
ask
it's
questions.
not a full-time position.
No, it's not a full-time
I gotta ask
position.
questions, though, yeah.
Yeah, yep.
So if you're doing it on 20 hours, why wouldn't we hire another town administrator on 20 hours?
Because I can't do it in 20 hours.
So we're not getting, this town is not running properly because
No.
you're doing 20 hours.
It's not.
So why did the town hire you for only 20 hours and not
Because-
somebody else? That's my question. It's not to you, but do you know
No,
what
no,
I'm
I
saying?
understand. I understand what you're saying.
If you're only doing 20 hours.
Yep.
And that's all you want to do,
That's all I
why
can
didn't
do.
the town hire someone at 40 hours?
First of all, you couldn't afford it, because somebody coming in here 40 hours to do what I'm doing is going to charge. My rate is higher than what you would pay a full-time town administrator. And the reason that is because I don't get any benefits. I don't
Right.
get vacation, I don't get sick time. I only get paid for when I'm here doing the work. If you hired me and I could work all of those hours, it's a lot of money at
Okay.
the end of the day.
As an interim.
But as an interim. Full-time town.
Full-time's different.
Full-time's gonna be different. You're gonna pay a full-time person a lot different because that person's getting all those benefits. And when you add all those benefits together, that's their package.
Right.
But when you add all those together, from an hourly perspective, that's what I'm charging you. And I always do that when I come in. I look at, what are you paying the town administrator? It's another 25 to 30% for benefits, and that's how I set my rate.
Okay.
And that's what I do as doing these interim things. But I can tell you, I'm doing everything I can to keep this town on its feet. When I lost my assistant town administrator, it was not pleasant, because I was hoping that I could foist some of that onto that person, so not having that position filled. And it doesn't make sense to fill that position right now, because when you hire your full-time person, let that person choose the person they're gonna work with, because you want them to be a team.
Right.
Me to pick that person, the person coming in might go, I don't wanna work with them.
Right.
And then you've got an issue. So I had a conversation with the select board, and I was willing to just suck it up and do what I can. Like I said, I'm doing everything I can to keep the lights on, but I'm not digging into the things that perhaps I should be.
Need to be.
That I would do if I was full-time. There's a lot of other things I'd be doing. I'd be working, let me tell you, as a full-time employee, I'd be working 100 hours a week.
Right.
I know I would.
Okay.
Because that's just part of the job. It's part of the thing. I've never worked in a municipality where I've worked less than 60 hours a week.
Right, that's why I don't get the 20.
It just
Okay.
happens. Yeah, it's not easy, but,
It's a title.
What's your contract length with the town?
I'm here open-ended until they get somebody in the seat.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was it. That was an agreement that we had.
Sure.
I don't want to leave the town, I don't want to abandon the town.
I appreciate that.
And the other thing I'm trying to do is keep my hours to a point where I can stay through the end of December, because looking at the process, it may take us that long to get somebody in the seat. Just because it takes a while to find somebody to do that. So, but, anyway. Go ahead.
So, we've known that we don't have a town administrator since January. We haven't had one. You've been here, though, as our intern.
July.
July?
July.
You left in-
Oh,
We
you
left
left in
in
July. Okay, but so why didn't we form a committee much quicker than it did already? And I feel like we could have a town administrator much sooner than we probably will, and we can probably get what you want and what every resident wants. So why haven't we sped up that process a little bit? That's my question.
Okay.
Anita?
I think Anita could answer.
Anita should answer that.
You want to go ahead?
Absolutely. So as soon as we found out that Justin Casanova Davis gave us, we asked Justin to be looking for an interim because we were without an interim before and that was challenging. Then we found an organization. We only meet every other week. We're a volunteer board. We found an organization. Then we collected steering committees. Then we appointed. There's a process that takes time to do we are really hoping to get the person who's the right person, not somebody who's going to come here for 3 years and then go. So we want to do the process thoughtfully so that we end up with somebody who's a good fit for Norfolk. So it just takes time. It's not like you can just look at they're also the organization that we've partnered with is not just posting the job and seeing who applies. They're recruiting some people who might be a good fit for our community. And so we're hoping to have a richer pool. We can't afford, we've had a lot of turnover in town, and some of it is retirements, but some of it is because people are leaving for higher paid. Our assistant town administrator got $10,000 raise to leave. Our facilities got a huge raise to leave. We're not paying the competitive wages like other towns, and so we want a thoughtful pool. The process takes time. We want it to be faster too. All of us, it's a united idea that we want it faster, but we have a screening committee in place. We have resumes collected. We also met with all of the people who work for the town and the select board and generated a list of what are we looking for? What does Norfolk need as a town administrator? And that took time. What does the perfect town administrator for Norfolk look like? And it's not just what Anita thinks, but it's also what the employees of the town think and what the residents. So there was information that was collected to say what is a good fit. I don't know if I'm answering this well or not.
You do it fine, but one of the other things that I just want to impart to everybody is, so I retired in 2021. 2 years before I retired, I was at a meeting with Mass Municipal Managers Association. We met periodically. We were all in Boston, and we were all sitting around these tables, and these round tables, and we started talking to each other. This particular table I was at, I was with 9 of my peers. And we started having a conversation. One guy was like, yeah, I'm gonna leave in 2 years. Oh, I'm leaving in 3. Oh, I'm leaving next year. Oh, I'm gonna go out the year after. Then we looked around the room and we went, oh my God, we're all the same age. So what's happened is a whole bunch of us all went, right after COVID, we all went, well, we've had enough, out the door. So you lost a huge talent pool. So you don't have a lot of people that are qualified to do the job. So it's difficult to find people because you're either gonna find somebody in another community that wants to hop over here because they like what they see in Norfolk, or you're gonna find somebody that is new that you're going to have to groom. I'm hoping that you find somebody who has some experience because they're gonna need it. Just, what I've seen and the things that I've had to do and been involved in, I made an analogy to somebody, every time I kick a rock, it's a boulder, because it's bigger than a bread box. Every problem that we have is a little bit bigger than it appears to be on the surface. And there's things that need to be just addressed. But you need someone who has the background and knowledge and can address those things. I'm one of the best in the business.
Just a quick question, when did Justin give his notice?
Oh.
That really didn't answer
March?
the question, did it?
March, April.
So he gave it in March? Okay, I was just wondering.
If there's a sense of
Well, just because it seems like,
It's
I'm trying to build a timeline in my head. Notice is given.
I don't think
Yeah,
that's
so like there's a
No.
6-month dead spot there.
Yeah.
And I get it, we have a
No.
three-person select board, so it's hard for them to set things set up, but.
As soon as he gave notice, we found an interim and we asked for committees, and then committees were researched. The interim town.
When did you come on, Mike?
I came on board July 1st.
Okay.
Wasn't diversity a big issue? That's why Justin was hired too, because we didn't have enough diversity in town?
No, it wasn't. We had the same process that a little bit different, but it wasn't diversity. It was, we were looking for the best person for the job.
I thought we didn't have enough diversity, that's why, that's
We
what
were
I was
looking for
told.
the best, that was
Okay.
not,
Did
we
we
looked
look-
at the candidate pool and we picked
No, I'm just, that's what I was told
we
in
picked the
town,
best
diversity.
3 and the
Okay.
best 3 came to the board.
That would be unfortunate if that happened.
Justin was awesome regardless.
Yes, I would agree.
I assume the answer to this is money, but did we look for an assistant interim town administrator?
I have not. And I haven't had this conversation with the board yet.
Would that be
because
strictly
it
your
is a mo- It is a
responsibility?
money thing.
Yeah.
And it would be my hire.
Okay.
And it,
20 hours a week.
we're trying to get, we're just trying to get through what we can here. There have been a couple of things that have cropped up. I may change my thought process there. But at this point in time, we're able, I have the best staff I have ever worked with in my career.
Yes.
In my office. Amanda and Judith are outstanding people. Judith keeps me on the straight and narrow. I walk in the building and she goes, here's your list. Have you done it yet? It's like, okay, let me look. She's awesome. She really keeps me honest. And Amanda does a fantastic job in the stuff that she does, trying to keep the rest of the pieces going. They're excellent, and without them, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing. But to your point, it may be time that we take a look at that. I've actually thought about bringing someone in, not so much as the an interim assistant town administrator, but someone more on the lines of an HR director. Someone who can help me from a part-time perspective with some of the HR stuff that we're dealing with, because we have this.
There's no HR right now for the town?
No, the HR director was the assistant town administrator.
So if you have to hire a DPW, hire somebody now what HR company, are you just using the recruiting system that's?
So for the DPW director, we're advertising on MMA.
Yeah.
We're advertising on our website, and we're getting resumes in.
Right, but there's no HR in the town. Right, and you're an intern.
You're looking at it. I'm going to I'll review all of the resumes. We do have an interim DPW director, and I've tapped him to help me walk through all of the resumes to make sure that we hire the right person for the public works. He's got a ton of experience, and I trust his judgment in that respect. I can read people usually when I'm in a meeting, and I know if they're going to be a fit for the town, and I just need him to tell me that, yeah, they're qualified for the job. So I think between the two of us, we'll be able to find somebody. And I'm hoping to get that done quickly.
Does the town use preferential hiring to already established town employees when it comes to these positions to move up in the chain?
If they're
only if they're qualified.
So let me,
Right.
no, it's a great question.
They have to have
And
licenses.
does anybody mind if I kind of wander around here? I love to wander around. One of the things that municipalities do really, really poorly is succession planning. And part of that is because of the cost of succession planning. You have it in departments. So you've got a chief and a deputy chief in the police department. You have a chief and a deputy chief in the fire department. But you need that, because if the chief happens to be on vacation and the world comes to an end, you need somebody that will actually take that forward.
Right.
Town administrators, not a lot of communities have assistant town administrators. They just kind of wing it. And I often wonder that. I scratch my head. It's like, you really should have somebody in there that's grooming to take over, because people don't stay all the time. And then you never know if someone's going to get ill or whatever. You just don't know. Life is what happens while you're making all the plans. But, I've seen that, and it's not just Norfolk. I've seen that everywhere. Succession planning is something that, because if they did, the whole exodus that we had of everybody leaving all at the same time, within the last 5 years, we've lost police, fire, facilities people, not just here. I'm not talking Norfolk. I'm talking in general. Police, fire, finance people, everybody that had been in positions of authority or knowledge, all left within a 5-year window.
Was it all just money? Was it just money based, or is there other reasons? I mean, sorry.
Retirements.
Okay, retirement.
Everybody.
Yeah, no, that makes
Everybody
sense.
was my age.
Okay.
I'm going to be 70 next year. I'm not afraid of that.
That's one thing I'll say. MassDOT does really good at succession planning.
But
They really do.
everybody hit the road all at the same time. And I mean, I get it, because particularly post-pandemic, I mean, I worked every day during the pandemic. I had to, because we were trying to keep the town, we still had to keep the town operating. We had to keep roads clear, police on the streets, fire, whatever. So I was in my office every day during the pandemic. But by the end of that, it was like, I've had it.
Yeah, if you're up for retirement, take it, for sure. I don't blame you.
Yeah, well, it was one of those, I did not apply for the town manager position, because whatever, it's a long story, but it's interesting when you sit there in a room with a bunch of people. It's going on in the air, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
But anyway, I didn't apply for the job. I decided not to. They hired an individual with no Massachusetts experience per se, and no town administrator experience. I hung in there with him for a year because of the pandemic to help him land. He offered to keep me around for another year. It was like, dude, I'm gonna make it as much retired as I am here. Why would I do that?
Right,
Unless you want to pay me more, I'm out of here. And I think that happened with a lot of people. And then they just kind of threw their hands up and they're like, I think we're spent. Some of us have done what I'm doing, which they do, interim gigs here and there. But a lot of people just said, no more. I've had it. I mean, I know people that are driving trucks because they just don't want to deal with this stuff anymore. Because it does get tiring. I mean, I'm only doing this, I'll back to 20 hours a week. That's 20 hours a week in the office. I'm still getting phone calls, reading emails, doing whatever on my time. I've got a place up in New Hampshire, and I sit there and I'll be on my computer, and my wife just looks at me and goes, "What are you doing? Take me for a boat ride. Don't do that. Take me for a ride." But anyway.
So I'm going to interrupt right on the note of the boat ride. Why don't we take like a 5-minute break? There's a ton of food over here. Let's stretch our legs. We've been sitting a long time. So let's take a 5-minute break.
All right.
You finally got your bridge back.
We'll be drawing on some more. So, Have we sufficiently beaten this chart to death? Is it good?
Yes.
Okay, all right, next slide, please. So what does your town actually do? I always get that question, what do you do? So I've actually broken this down into 5 segments, if you will. So education, public safety, finance, land use, and the other one, oh, community services. It's pretty much what you do. Could you go back one, please? So under all of that, in education, you have King Philip, and you have your Norfolk schools, and then you have other. So other could be charter school, could be, because those are all expenses that you pay as a taxpayer. Charter school, Tri-County, any of those, Norfolk Aggie. So any of those schools that are, specialized that our students go to all fall into the education piece. Interestingly enough, education is the only thing, to your question earlier, is the only thing that a town or city is constitutionally required to deliver as a service. So within the Massachusetts Constitution, that's what it says. You have to deliver education. The rest of it is fluff. I'm just kidding. It really isn't. But the rest of it is by choice to a certain degree. But I would challenge anybody not wanting police, fire, public works, or emergency management. Those are your public safety groups. And I put public works in here because it's one of those departments that I think gets overlooked a lot. Because they're not considered public safety from a retirement perspective or from any of the other perspectives at the state level, which I find a little bit unnerving. But it is what it is. But without those guys plowing the roads, your police and fire trucks, your police cars and your fire trucks are sitting in an alleyway somewhere. So public works, in my opinion, belongs in there. And emergency management, that's the old civil defense. You all probably know, some of you older folks like me know it as civil defense. You wouldn't. But emergency management is the old civil defense. And then from a finance perspective, you have accounting, you have treasury and collection, and then you have assessing. And that all falls under the finance pieces of it. And really, treasurer collection could be 2 separate lines. I just put it in there that way because I was running out of room on the slide, to be honest with you. But treasury and collection is all part and parcel of that. The collectors are usually part of the treasurer's office. Next slide. On the land use piece, you have planning, conservation, zoning, building department. I put all of those in there because they're all responsible for making sure that people are doing the right things with the land, that they're following the rules, they're following the zoning guidelines, the bylaws of the town, the state requirements, particularly on the building side. One of the things that they do periodically is update the building codes. And those building codes are really important. And because of that, we have fewer fires. Because they're following different code. You can't do knob and tube anymore. You can't do, you can't, if you touch a circuit, if you put a new plug in, you're supposed to replace the breaker with a ground fault breaker now. Those are all the rules that get updated periodically in the building department. And then conservation, you want to protect your wetlands always. And you've got a lot of them here because you have the rivers that are running through the town. And then planning, obviously, you want to make sure that when you're building stuff, you're planning it appropriately. And then your community services, senior center, recreation, library, health department. I lumped into community services because the health department offers things like flu clinics and that type of thing. You also have a fair housing committee here in town, which this is the first town I've been in that has that. And I'm glad that you do because they're doing a good job with what they need to do for all of that. And then there's a housing authority. The housing authority is not appointed nor is it elected. Is it elected?
We have one elected.
It's elected, yeah, you have one elected position on the housing authority. Housing authority is controlled by the state. The state is the one that dictates how the housing authorities all operate. And a lot of those authorities have banded together and have done collaborative kind of things. Next slide. So, I'm going to jump now to organization chart for the town administrator. I kind of drove it down. It's really in the wrong place. I wanted it back with the other one, and I just put it in the wrong place. That's my fault. But that's the town administrator and all the departments and functions, if you will, that report through the town administrator. So if you look at those three org charts, you have one for the entire town, one for the select board, and then one for the town administrator. Next slide, please. Budgets.
Quick question real quick on
Yeah,
that
sure.
last
Go ahead.
slide. These positions are all filled at this moment, besides your assistant that's not on here.
Public Works, we're missing the Public Works Director.
Okay.
We are missing, no, we have a technology person. We have one person that does technology. We have a technology director.
HR.
And then we have HR and, whatever that is. Assistant Town Administrator, Human Resources. So we've got Town Administrator, Assistant Town Administrator, and DPW Director. Okay. Vacant at the moment. Otherwise, everybody else is filled.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
With longevity. Sorry, you got me on the succession planning now. So.
Well, it's funny. There are a lot of people that have been here a long time, which again is unusual. I've gone into towns where people have been there for 30, 40. Your police chief just retired. He was here for 40-something years. Okay. Started off as a dispatcher. But beyond that, you have a lot of newer people in these roles in various places. So, let's talk about budgets. So your town budget, your general fund operating budget is about $55 million. It's a little over $55 million. That's your general fund operating budget. That's what pays for the general operation of the town. And that's where you have your charges for all of those departments that we talked about, are all in there. And in there, which is not on those slides, are things like pensions and benefits. So that's the pension money that goes to Norfolk County retirement that everyone who works here is paying into, plus the town pays a portion of that. You also have in there, it's not in this whole thing, health insurance, which is a big driver of your budget. You have in there your payment to King Philip. And then you have all of your other departmental expenses in there. I'm sure there's some that I'm missing, but that's where everything falls, is into the general operating budget.
With all these, with all your town employees, does every town employee fall into the same healthcare system, or does each department have their own healthcare?
Everybody falls into the town's health plan.
Okay, cool.
So we have a single health plan. We have, I'm going to kind of, sorry, I'm not going to try to be too long-winded here, but we have an insurance advisory committee that is comprised of a representative from every union within the town and a retiree. And that group gets together and talks about
So
health
Grounds
insurance.
Works is the same as the teachers?
Everybody gets
Okay,
the
cool.
same thing.
Yeah, that just makes sense. That's why I was asking. Yeah.
Yep, including in retirement, because they can buy in, they can actually get their supplemental health or the health plan from the town in retirement also.
Okay.
Depending on whether or not they're 65. They're under
Sure.
65, there's a whole other piece that goes with that. From a budgeting perspective, cities and towns, unlike the federal government, are required to create a balanced budget, which means that your revenues and your expenses have to equal.
That's great.
If they don't equal, you don't have a budget. As a town administrator, I can't bring forward a budget that is unbalanced. I can be unbalanced, but the budget can't be. But it takes a lot to do that, and we'll talk about revenue. We've got the revenue sources here. We can talk about that too. And then one thing I put up here, everybody's always asked, what free cash? Where did the free cash come from? Free cash is a term that's used, it's retained earnings. So from a corporate perspective, if you were doing the books for a corporation, it's retained earnings. So when we're doing the budget, we're estimating, because the budget's nothing more than a best guess, we're estimating what our revenues are going to be and what our expenses are going to be. If our revenues come in higher than anticipated and our expenses are lower than anticipated, you have free cash. That's what constitutes that. It's turnbacks from the departments and excess revenues. I do want to point out that your town budget at 55.2, inclusive in that was 1.1 million that was actually taken out of free cash to balance the budget, which means you kind of took it out of a different pocket, but it should have been used for one-time expenses and capital needs, and we used it to balance the budget in fiscal year 2026.
Who made that decision?
Town
All the
meeting.
voters at town meeting.
Town meeting. So in order to balance the budget, the revenues were falling short of the expenses that were required. So the decision was made to use 1.1 million out of the free cash.
And the free cash, again, is just retained earnings, so it's just.
It's retained earnings from the year prior.
Or prior years, not just.
Well, prior years,
So like,
yeah,
it's just
so it could
extra
have
tax money
accumulated.
we pay that the budget didn't, I won't say
Yeah.
extra tax money, but extra tax money, sure.
Mike, didn't we actually use stabilization last year too?
You used some money out of stabilization too to pay for, about 400,000?
400,000.
Out of stabilization, and that was to pay for, which I would never recommend, but you had to do it, for the debt for Tri-County.
Tri-County.
So Tri-County, and we're having this happen, I'll get to you in a second. Tri-County got some money from school building administration to build a new building. And then every community that sends children to Tri-County is paying that bill. It was an expensive proposition. And if you didn't vote for a debt exclusion override, the only place to get that is out of your operating budget. So that money was taken out. So one of the things that we're going to be doing in November at the special town meeting is putting that 400,000 back in stabilization.
With something like that, if we didn't use that, or we didn't have these funds, and an override came, we voted down, what happens in that situation?
You still have to pay it. Still have to pay the money out of your operating budget. You'd have to find it somewhere, and if you didn't have it
Right,
in
you'd have to cut it from other
stabilization,
departments.
You'd
Sure.
have to
Yep,
start
okay.
cutting.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, my question is, how much free cash do we have left?
So we just had our free cash certified for this fiscal year. It's 2.9 million.
So, from the way we spent last year, we cannot, go for another 3 years.
It's not sustainable.
No.
It's not a sustainable model. Good catch and good point. It's not a sustainable model. What you're basically doing is robbing Peter to pay Paul. That's what you're doing. It's an old term, but it has to do with building of churches, but yes. You have a question?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I didn't know if you were.
That's okay.
Obviously, our free cash, we're not having this excess cash flow anymore, generated from taxes. Are there checks and balances with each department that, and I only ask this because I've worked for a couple towns, and they're racing at the end, at July 15th, they're racing to spend that money.
Yeah.
Are there checks and balances, and I'm not saying anybody's doing this, but are there checks and balances in the town to ensure that this money is being spent properly? Because I know, just the way that the demon works, if they don't spend as much, if their budget comes down because they don't need to spend, they get nervous that they're not going to get that money next year.
Yeah.
So there are checks and balances that happen. I'd rather see somebody overspend it because they need it than spend it because they have it.
I haven't been here.
Okay.
I'm hoping there are. I can tell you in communities that I've been in before, I've frozen expenditures in like May if we're getting too close.
Sure, because they're racing.
So I just stop. You know, I'll get quick story in Weymouth. In addition to being I wore multiple hats there too. I was also the IT director of community services, director of administrative services. I went into the closet in the IT department because I needed a box of something, and I was appalled at how much stuff was in there. I actually opened up to the town. I was like, don't anybody buy supplies, because I've got a closet full of paper clips, staplers, staple guns, you name it, it was in there. And I'm like, what in the world? And that was what they did. They spent their budget at the end of the year and they bought all this frivolous stuff just because what they didn't want to have happen is going to the finance committee or the appropriations committee and having them say, well, you only spent $400,000 last year.
Right.
We're only going to give you $4 this year. I'm hoping that as we build our budget for fiscal year 27, because we're in fiscal year 20, by the way, that's another thing we should probably talk about is fiscal years. But as we build the budget for fiscal year 27, one of the things we need to look at very carefully is our run rate. From what I understand, the way we've built budgets in the past, it's like budget to budget. It's like, no. It's your budget to your run rate for your prior 3 years. What was your actual spend for those years? And then talk to me about what your needs are within each of those line items. So if I were here and I were building the budget for 27, that's what I'd be looking for. I want to know what your run rates are. Because again, I'm going back to my private sector roots. If I went to my boss at Fidelity Investments and said, yeah, I spent $400 million last year, I need $420 million.
Right. That's your profit ratio.
Yeah, that would be you out the door.
Right.
I'll find somebody that can do that.
But I just want to jump in that our departments are not doing that because
No, they're
we
not.
have, our free cash used to be around 1 million and it's up to 3 million because departments, even our schools, if they've met their accountability, they give money back to the town, the DPW, so that is not a situation, we don't have closets of staplers in Norfolk.
Well, I just said, all I said was, and I wasn't accusing of it, I said, what are the checks and balances?
Yes,
Like,
it's a good
just
question.
to-
It's an excellent
just to
question.
ensure.
But I just wanted to reassure folks that actually our free cash is, because departments are committed to keeping us on we're on a very lean, and they do give money back, which is how our free cash has gone from a little over 1 to close to 3 million. Go ahead.
So just also, Mike, and I think it's important to say that free cash is an annual number. So that 2.9 million isn't like all the free cash we've ever assembled. All right, that 2.9 is last year's free cash, which is turnbacks, but it's also taxes that came in out higher than the 2.5% levy limit allows. It's new growth, it's what it's called, So I don't want you to think that we're burning through the mattress, that 2.9, which I always thought was a very high number and was too high. I used to argue that, we should have less free cash because
But
then.
we shouldn't be balancing the budget with free cash.
Bingo.
Which we know.
And even less with stabilization funds.
Right.
Yeah, well, I'll go back to free cash should really be used for one-time expenses and capital needs.
Right, like a new fire truck or something.
Yes, ma'am.
I believe on the state of the town address that Anita stated that there was $1 million from the fire, the
Yes.
building of the fire
Yes.
station that was coming back to the taxpayers. What's happening to that million?
So it's not really $1 million that's going to come back. It's $1 million that you're going to save. So the project came in under budget.
Smaller loan.
Yeah, the $1 million will be used to either pay down the debt or it'll be as part of that whole process, but it's $1 million you won't have to pay out. So in a way, it does come back because it's not going to have to go out of
How
your.
do we ensure that goes back to pay the loan on the fire department and not get spent somewhere else?
You can't use it anywhere else.
Okay, good.
Because
Sure, just making sure.
So when you borrow money, you
Because
have
I'm guilty of that type of stuff. So.
Yeah, no, when you borrow money, you have to deal with bond counsel, arbitrage. You have to deal with all of those pieces that are out there that if you did that, you'll never get a bond again.
Okay.
But if is another option for if you estimate for a major build project and you don't use all the money for that project that you could, with voters' permission, allocate it to another building project?
Is that what happened with like the fire police combo build? Because then we have funds left over from that?
Yeah, because you borrowed the money for a specific project, when you went to the street with that bond counsel said, because it's like any other bond. So you're selling the bond on the street, you're going out there and saying, here's a bond to build a fire station. This town needs, $40 million to do that. Who's in? And then everybody invests in that, and that's how they get their money, and you pay them back with interest. If you changed what you did there, it's not gonna happen. Bond counsel is gonna go nuts, and the arbitrage people that actually look that over, to bring it to their investors, they're gonna kill you. You'll never do it again. And I think it's illegal. I don't think you could.
Yeah, plus you had a town meeting vote that specified what that
Correct.
debt issue was for, so you'd be violating the town meeting vote.
There's a lot of pieces involved in all of that.
So I have a question then. With the bond that we took out back when we built the new police department for the combo police and fire, and we didn't get the fire department built from it, isn't that, that's against the bond? Because we didn't finish the fire department.
But you did the police department.
But we voted on a combo.
Okay.
I'm just asking
Yeah,
questions.
I'm not,
Yeah,
I
like,
don't know, I wasn't
of, like,
here.
how these bonds
So
are.
what happened was, we said, we want this amount of money, and we'll get
Yep.
police and fire
Yep.
out of this. And police took too much of that,
Ah.
but we still had that extra left over.
Right, which went into the new.
That
Went
started
into the
the
new
fire
fire
department
Right.
project.
Okay.
So he did get
So-
it, it did. It's
It was
just a
used kind of.
different
I
term.
believe.
Yeah, it was
Kind of.
Yeah, kind of, sort of.
Yeah.
It still did build two public
Kind of,
facilities, even though the project was gonna be one.
I believe we started with $3 million for the fire station.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right.
Total cost was 26.
So,
Big dick, huh?
Norfolk bond rating is very good. 'cause
Norfolk
we
bond
pay
rating
our
is
bills.
double A
A,
plus.
double A plus.
It's
yes.
double A plus.
Cool.
It's actually up there.
Oh, see, there you go.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, it is.
pay our bills.
I think AAA is the best, but AA plus is good. And that's, it's not only that you pay the bills, so they look at a whole bunch of different factors there when they're doing that rating. I mean, the first bond rating call that I was on was kind of interesting, because they asked me all kinds of questions about contracts for our employees, longevity for me as a town manager. You know, how long have you been there? How long are you gonna stay? It's like, well, I don't know, you know, you could fire me tomorrow, I have no idea. But that was all part of all of that. So they look at a whole bunch of different factors. It's not just you paying your bills, it's a whole bunch of, because they want to know how stable you are as an environment, as a community. And that's how they sell that bond, because they do that, okay, this community is really stable, here's what the revenues are, here's what the expenses are, here's the last 5-10 years of financial.
They ask about succession planning?
They should. They should. So anyway, back to retained earnings, AKA free cash. Really should be used for one-time expenditures and for your capital needs. There's two ways you do capital, and I've got one up there, debt. So you either borrow to do stuff, or you use your free cash to do some of those things. I can tell you, I worked in a community where we were borrowing to buy police cars when I walked in the door, and I went, what? So you're paying a 5-year note on a vehicle that lasts 3. I can't run my household like that. I don't know how anybody else does. So we immediately stopped that process, and we actually put it toward, we used our free cash to buy those cruisers for the police department, and then eventually we put it into the budget. So we would replace 2 cruisers every year within the budgetary process. It just made it a lot cleaner, and they don't last. Now, would I bond for a ladder truck? You bet, because it's almost $2 million for a ladder truck, and I'm gonna bond for that all day long. I might bond for a big piece of equipment, front-end loader, because it's in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. But smaller things, you don't want to bond for those. You actually want to go out and use your free cash for that.
And just as a point, we shared the cost of our ladder truck. We split the cost with Rentham, so we only had to pay for half of it, and we got a grant, a big, beautiful grant that paid for part of it. So we paid for half of it, and the ladder truck is housed in Norfolk. So we share it with Rentham, but it's housed in Norfolk, and that was a real savings to our community. Sorry.
It's okay.
I can't
It's
help
all right.
myself.
So we talked about a balanced budget. So your revenue sources, there's a list of your revenue sources. The largest revenue source is taxation, which is your real estate taxes. Part of the issue that you have as a community is you don't have a big commercial base. So the residential taxpayers are taking the whole burden of this. And part of that problem is you don't have sewerage townwide. So to be able to build in the town is a little difficult. The cost of building any facility, if you have to put in a Title V for a big facility, is gonna be there. Hopefully, there's some things that will happen eventually that you'll be able to do that, but you really do need to build your commercial base. Bedroom community is not going to cut it. Your tax bills are pretty significant as they are. Another source of local income is excise tax on vehicles, boats, RVs, whatever. There's an excise tax for all of that, so that's another area of local revenue. Permits and fees, building permits, fees for various things. If there's all kinds of fees and permits around. That's another revenue source. And then you also have a Community Preservation Act. That's not included in your revenues for your general fund. It's a whole separate fund, but it's another source of revenue that I wanted to make sure we didn't lose sight of. The town voted the Community Preservation Act, I don't know when, I don't know what year, but there's an additional 1% that is collected that goes toward community preservation. So that's recreation, historical, housing,
Open space?
and open space. Yeah, it's open space and recreation, I think, are combined. I think there's 3 categories. And then there's one that's unclassified and undesignated.
So is that way on like certain things like with, I'll just give like pickleball as an example, because we have that Community Preservation Act of 1%, those funds are just for that. That's why they use them just for that, because they're not gonna be used for anything else.
They can't be used for anything
Okay,
else.
cool. That makes sense. Why, we have this money, we might as well do something for the community.
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
Exactly.
And it didn't come out of the general fund.
Right.
No, it doesn't come out of the general fund, but it's still a tax that people are paying.
Right.
And then you have local aid, which is always interesting. So local aid comes from the state, and it actually comes on this thing called a cherry sheet. And the cherry sheet got its name back when everything was paper, because the stuff would come to the cities and towns on cherry-colored paper. That's why it's called the cherry sheet. But that's all local aid, and that includes your Chapter 70 money, which is your school aid. So Chapter 70, it includes revenues for local government to operate your general government. You get money back for veteran services. So when you have X number of people that you're servicing, you spend X number of dollars for veteran services, you get 75% of that back from the state. So that's in there. Aid for the libraries is in there. It's usually around $30,000, $40,000, something to that effect, and that's for library services. But there's a flip side of the cherry sheet. And on the back side of the cherry sheet, which is the side I always look at first, is the chargebacks from the state. So the state giveth, and the state, boy, do they taketh away. So they may give you extra money in aid for charter schools. So you get aid for charter school tuition out. You get money for that, but then they take it back from you on the other side, and it's usually that and a little bit more. So there's charges that we pay back to the state on that cherry sheet as well. So you always hear, oh, there was, I'll give you an example, $77,000 in additional Chapter 70 money that came to the town. Awesome, great, love it, except that the state took more on the backside for out of general government to put it into Chapter 70, and then it also took money out for charter school tuition out. So the net was about $40-something thousand at the end of the day. So the state gave us 77 and took 30, but you never hear about that side of it. The legislators always tell you how much more they just gave you. It's like, thanks a lot, I appreciate that.
What about, did we get any money from the prison where the
That's
migrants were-
included on the cherry sheet. It's very
No,
little.
The
Okay,
migrants,
anymore.
that was a different situation.
Well, we got money.
We should got money.
There should be some,
Yes.
but it's on the cherry sheet. It's included in that cherry
Is
sheet.
the prison, just the prison itself, on the cherry sheet also, or is that just tax revenue?
Yeah, no, it's.
But this
cherry
year it
sheet.
was
Okay.
0, but oftentimes we usually budget for prison mitigation money
Sure.
that we get, and it's fickle about how much we get each year. Sometimes it's 200,000, sometimes, this year it was 0.
Yeah, this year they took it all.
Do we charge them when they use our emergency services though?
No.
So they get our emergency services for free and then don't pay us any money?
Yeah.
We are not allowed
That's
to
super
charge them
cool.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. that's
We're not
cool.
allowed to charge them back.
What? Why? What do you mean we're not allowed to charge them
State
for an
law.
ambulance run?
No, state law.
Okay.
State law. So that's part of the issue with running a municipality. You have all these laws and rules. I'm on camera, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
One of my favorite mantras, the state is not our friend.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I have never been involved in a situation where the state has actually been of benefit, except for maybe some of the local aid that we get. But beyond that, there are so many rules and regulations. There's so many unfunded mandates that the town has to deal with. School department in particular. Schools have all kinds of unfunded mandates that they get from the state government, from federal government. It's like, oh, here's all this money. But you're gonna have to hire 4 people to fill out all the paperwork to get that.
What happens if the town just doesn't comply? We lose our funding, but if the funding doesn't cover the cost of what they're making us.
I'm just using that as.
No, I know, but I guess I'm throwing out.
For the most part, the funding that we get does help the town. I would not want to lose state aid.
Okay.
If you lost your state aid, you're going to be in trouble.
Okay.
Because it is in the significant amount, but it's not a significant percentage of your budget. The majority of the budget is.
It's not creating a deficit, though, I guess is.
Yeah, it would hurt you if you lost.
Okay.
And it's not, at the end of the day, you're still netting out in the.
Yeah, as long as
black.
there's, in the black, sure.
Another source of revenue is Chapter 90. Chapter 90 is for your roads. So Chapter 90 money comes in for fixing roads. So there's X number of dollars that you get per mile. It's X number of dollars per mile to fix your roads. That automatically has to be spent on road repair. That's part of the whole Chapter 90.
Well,
kind of. Who decides which roads deem repair?
So that would be Public Works. So the Public Works Director has I don't know if he has a database or not. The interim guy that's over there, he and I are having some discussions about all of that. But they determine which roads are going to be repaired when. And a lot of that has to do with the amount of traffic that is on the road and the state of the road and the age of the road.
Would input from residents help move things along?
I think that would be a good question for the DPW night, when we meet with DPW, let's ask them.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good question for them, but.
The
I mean,
Chapter 90 roads, is that State Roads 115 too?
Nope, state takes care of the roads themselves.
Okay.
So state has its own, but
Okay.
we get money for our local roads.
It happens, although you think of the numbered roads as state roads, that 115 is a county road, not a state.
Oh, is that a county road?
It's not a state?
Okay.
You guys know any different?
I thought it was state.
I thought it was state. Okay.
We'll find out on DPW night.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And then you have grants, federal and state grants for different, but those have to be, usually those are specific to a project or something else that you're doing. And then you have debt for your capital.
Do we currently have a paid grant writer?
We do not,
So every department head is usually the one researching grants?
correct.
We had one in the budget, but we couldn't afford to keep it in the budget.
So,
This was one of those things that was in the budget. Oh yeah, this would be great, it would bring in more money. Nope, we're short. We can't do a balanced budget, cut the position.
Because we would have expected the grant writer to write enough grants to pay for their salary and then bring additional to the town, but we couldn't afford the position.
it takes a while to get there to that point where you actually have that position that's being paid for, because you can only take a small portion of whatever you get for a grant to pay for the management of the grant. So you need a lot of them in order to be able to get that position
With
paid.
that being said, our department heads do apply for grants and get grants.
Our department heads do a great job of applying for grants, and they've gotten a bunch of them. Could we do better? I don't know. A lot of the grants have dried up. A lot of the federal grants are gone now. The new administration has cut back on a lot of the grants that are out there, so we're not getting the grants that we used to. So those are your sources of revenue as part of your balanced budget. You can go to the next slide. So you also have two enterprise funds. You have a water enterprise fund and you have a wastewater enterprise fund, or a sewer enterprise fund. It's wastewater, though, is the way we refer to it. Your water enterprise fund is about 2.1 million, and that pays for salaries and expenses for the folks that do the water side of everything. And it's an enterprise fund. An enterprise fund is self-sufficient, so that revenue that we get from the enterprise fund pays for the folks that are working there, the repairs and maintenance to all of the water lines, your sewer, your hydrants, all of those things that are water related all get paid for out of that. We also do some indirect charges there for accounting, for human resources, for general management of the town. So we charge it back some charges there as well. Same way with wastewater. Wastewater isn't as big, it's only $200,000, thereabouts. We do not do our own, we do chargebacks there as well, so the DPW director, part of their salary goes there, part of their salary goes to water, part of their salary is in the general fund. So the general fund isn't burdened by everything. We have these other places where we're taking funds to pay for these pieces.
Do we subcontract out?
The wastewater, we subcontract.
Are these net zero? Like they,
No.
non-profit?
No,
Or they make
no, they
profit?
have retained earnings as well.
Okay.
Which we're gonna talk about. But we do contract out for wastewater. One second. We contract with a company called Whitewater that actually runs the wastewater treatment plant that we took from a private developer. Yes, ma'am.
The water receipts are from, not everyone in town has water.
Correct.
So that's just those.
Just the people that have water.
That support that.
Correct.
So, is it fair to take part of a salary for the Director of Public Works out of the Water Department?
It is, because the Public Works Director actually oversees all of that, so the portion of their time that is associated with that, we charge back to that particular enterprise fund. Same way with the sewer enterprise fund. If those people are responsible for all of that, we have we have people that are doing things for those two funds, and we charge back different pieces to that.
Is that
Because they do provide
fair?
service.
I mean, is it
It is, because they provide
balanced
services.
percentage-wise?
It is. It's not a big percentage. It's a small percentage of their salary, because it's based on the amount of time that they spend there, but they are responsible for it, so we can charge that back. And we're not alone. Every community does this, because it's part of the whole process, because they are doing the work there. These budgets also have to be balanced, but they also have retained earnings. So at the end of the fiscal year, and I'll give you an example, when we got our free cash number, we also got our water and wastewater numbers as well. Water was 3.8 million, and wastewater was smaller amount. It was only a couple $100,000 or something. But those funds are then used to repair and replace pipes, keep the water, if you have to change filtration systems within the water, because we have wells. We're gonna have to do a big project for our wells. That's coming up probably this year. We're gonna have to do some work to all of our wells. So that's what those retained
But
earnings
there's
are used
free
for.
cash, I'll call it free cash. I know it's not free cash,
Yeah.
but there's free cash to cover that.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So we won't have to raise the rates. We'll be able to use those funds to pay for all of that.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Anita put this slide in here, so I'm like, okay, what are my thoughts? So, first thing you can do is get out and vote, because of the way your government is structured, it's important that you put the right people in the right places, particularly where you have so many committees and positions that you choose as a voter. You're the ones that's choosing that. Your planning board, your board of assessors, your board of library trustees, your town clerk, your select board. Those are all chosen by the voters. So the first thing you can do to get involved, vote. Attend town meeting. I highly recommend you go to town meeting, if nothing else, for the entertainment value, because it can get very interesting. And then stay informed. And to your point on the seniors center, I'm hearing that a lot. And one of the things that Thais brought this to my attention, and I credit her with this. She was like, well, we need a communications committee, something that can help get the word out. I kind of seized on that, and I said, you know what? Let's do that. Let's make it instead of making it a committee, let's make it an advisory group to the town administrator and help the town administrator figure out the best ways to get all this information out to people. Because there's a ton there. It's just, how do we get people to do that? How do we get people to actually get at it. I will tell you that there's a ton of information on your website. And one of the things that's out there is ClearGov. I don't know if anybody's looked at that, but if you go to the tab on the website that says Your Town at Work, if you go to ClearGov, you can actually look at your budget within ClearGov. And you can drill down into that budget and look at all of the pieces and where they're going. You can also look at how your town stacks up against other towns of like proportion, if you will. So they use an algorithm, and they go out and they look at it and they say, okay, Norfolk, you're just like, not just like, but you're close to this community, whatever it happens to be. I don't really know, because honestly, I haven't had time to sit down and drill down to this. But it will show you how you stack up in each of your departments. You can drill down into various levels within the budget. So we take, at the end of the year, we import all of our information from our accounting system, which is Munis, into ClearGov, and then they then go through and they evaluate all of that against everybody else. It's an interesting source of information. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I went to ClearGov, and some of the committees, they have not posted anything. So it's incomplete from what I saw.
ClearGov all the information from ClearGov comes from one place, so I'm curious
I'm saying that what I
because it doesn't
saw,
come from
it's not there.
It all comes out of Munis, so I'll take a look at it and see, because I'm curious myself, because it really all should be there.
If you're saying that it's supposed to be there, then, yeah, we should make sure.
It should be there.
Yes,
it should be there.
So if you go on the website and you scroll down you can go in here
Yeah.
and click on
Well,
different places to sign up.
yeah, that's
for
something
alerts.
else. If you can go back, just
But
to stay
here
with ClearGov for now.
Okay.
So if you go into Your Town at Work, over on the left should be.
There's gonna be
Down at the bottom.
At the bottom.
information,
There you go.
everything.
ClearGov. So it gives you demographic information, it gives you, your population size, your, assessed value, et cetera, et cetera. I do want to touch on one thing before I forget it, because it will slip my mind. Because I've had this question asked on more than one occasion by more than one person. How come my taxes went up more than 2.5%? We have Proposition 2.5. Why did my taxes go up more than 2.5%? The way that works is we can only raise and appropriate 2.5% on top of the aggregate tax from the prior year for the town. So if we collected $60 million, it's not, because it's not even close, but $40 million. I'm Prius. I'm like, sure, I'd love to. Who's going to dig them out of the snow? So there are certain people that need to get here very quickly, and I think those two folks.
Sure.
Definitely, everybody else, when you get here, you get here. I don't recommend it for everybody else.
Even
I just don't.
DPW?
Even DPW, yeah.
Did DPW, do they drive home in the work trucks here in this town?
No, they
No.
shouldn't. They shouldn't be. No, all the trucks are in the garage. From what I've seen, because I was over there.
I'm pretty sure our last DPW took his home.
Last DPW director took his vehicle home. The
Yes.
new DPW will not.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
But all the other trucks are in
Yeah.
the barn.
Yeah.
They're all in the garage. I walked through there and went, wow, we got a lot of equipment here.
Okay.
Anyway, so real quick, fiscal years. We work on a fiscal year. Our fiscal year runs from July 1st to June 30th. So when we talk about a fiscal year that we're in, it's the June of the end of the fiscal year. So right now, we are in fiscal year 26. Because our fiscal year will end June 30th of 2026. Did I say 56? God, 26. Yeah, so so our fiscal year will end in June 30th of 2026. So we're in fiscal 26. And we'll begin the process of building our fiscal year 27 budget around Thanksgiving. We'll start building the budget for fiscal 27 and at least start having discussions with the department heads about what we're going to have to do. I want to go back to 9C cuts. Back in 2009, Deval Patrick had to go to the legislature and ask the legislature for permission to cut funding to the cities and towns. Maura Healy in her budget this year requested 9C authority as part of the budget process. So Maura Healy right now has the ability to do 9C cuts without having to go back to the legislature. The state is dealing with a $3 billion budget deficit. I am hoping that after the election, we don't have to deal with that. I'm hoping. But just as an FYI, that's looming out there as well. Not that I want to be doom and gloom, but it's a reality, and I think you need to know the reality.
Quick question about volunteer for board or committee.
Yep.
On the link you gave us to stay informed with the text messages, do you have a specific one that says, if I click on that, it'll let me know? I don't want to have to click all of them. But like, if I say, if I click on one of them, it'll automatically tell me anytime there's a volunteer position open for any board or committee. Just one button that will send me out that information. I don't want to click every department. Well, maybe I will click every department.
I don't think we do, and I think...
It's
I feel like
career opportunities, but I don't know if it's.
I feel like even like the
somewhere
information for getting this class isn't. I don't check Facebook every day. I don't do that type of stuff. So like sometimes it's hard to get information from town of what's available for us to help the town out with. Besides bigger things, but sometimes not everybody can do the bigger elected positions.
No, I get that.
So to like have that maybe be a type of cell phone thing that you guys are sending texts or emails about.
Yeah.
Would help.
We will take that on as part of that communications committee.
Okay.
Communications advisory thing on ways to get that information out to everybody.
That's not me.
Is that me? I'm sorry, folks.
It's the only one.
So.
Sorry, that's my favorite daughter.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. She was.
It is.
Now we know you're in trouble.
Updated.
Okay, yeah, I just know there could be like a way to get, again.
But the alerts, I'll find out.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, thank you.
So, we are almost at our witching hour
Can I
here.
do a couple business things?
Certainly.
Are you all set, or?
Listen, I'm done unless anybody has another
All right.
question for me.
So, first of all, thank you, Mike, for your time, because that was awesome. I'm very grateful for that. The blue folders. If you want to put your name tag on the blue folder and put it in the box, we'll bring it next time. If you want to bring the blue folder home, you can bring the blue folder home, whatever gives you happiness. Next Thursday is 6 o'clock at the fire station. We're meeting at the fire station. And in your blue folder, thank you, that's next. In your blue folder, there is a pink sheet. If everybody would just take a minute right now and fill out that pink sheet, it's for us to get smarter and to make decisions for next time, that we can put the pink sheets in the box over by Amanda. Donna?
Is there somewhere on the pink sheet that we can find out if everybody wants to do a wrap-up of all of this at the back?
Oh, I gave that as my comment.
We'll put that next time.
Yeah, if
We
you
can
do.
put that on next time,
Or just put it on a comment down to this one.
but we would love to have the,
It was cool that I just wrote, I crossed out budget and finance and just put fire
thank you.
department.
Oh, because we had to reschedule. It's fire department next time. So we'll meet at the fire station at 6 o'clock, and it'll be all about fire. So anything you want to know, let us know, and we will be sure that it's included. And thank you. Thank you for the gift of time.
Amanda has copies of the slides if you want to grab a copy.
Should we pass them out? Yeah, let's pass them out while people are here.